The following program contains explicit candor. If you suffer from self-deception, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your political advisor.
Imagine there no jihad. It's easy if you try. No Sharia law to oppress us. No bombers just wanting to die. Imagine all the people finally being free.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. The only TV host arrested more times than Mahatma Gandhi, Randall Terry.
Don't ask me how I did it, but I got in and out of Mecca alive, even though I'm an infidel. All right. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev has been formally charged for his terrorist act. And he's communicating with government officials. And he's saying, look, I'm not connected to any terrorist organization. I am just good Muslim. We're going to talk about that today. But first, from another good Muslim with a lot of krapa, Jenny Grihad. Did I say her name right?
Akbar, welcome, children. You know, back in the day of Apostle Muhammad, children respect their elder. So, when Holy Apostle Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he give back his sword to daughter Fatima, he say, take sword and wash blood from it, for behold, it has served me well today. Children, listen well to the example of daughter Fatima.
I just like holding up a picture of John Wayne because I think he's cool. I can do it too because the director told me I could. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that bit of kindness. All right. I have to have just a little bit of levity at the beginning because this program is going to be a little bit more, how do we say in your language, on the intense side. As you know, the 19-year-old terrorist has been formally charged. He is able to speak a little. He's able to communicate in writing. So it makes it a little bit difficult for investigators to question him because they don't have the dynamic of give and take speech, but he is expected to survive and his full powers of speech, it appears, will return. We will follow this story. The reason I want to do at least one or two more episodes on what happened in Boston is to alleviate you remove from you the burden, I should say, of so many of the lies and the misconceptions that are out there, many of them being spread, promulgated by the secular media. Most members of the press are completely ill-equipped to cover stories like this and men like Dzhokhar Tsarnaev because they do not know what questions to ask. All right? And by the way, yes, that includes Fox. That includes Fox. You've turned to the right place if you actually want to try and get inside of the head of a Muslim terrorist. Now, right here I have with me, can we get a tight shot on these over here, Lane? This is the life of Muhammad. This is the single most important volume on the life of Muhammad. It was written by a devout Muslim about 150 years after Muhammad's death. His name is Ibn Ishaq. And the other great Islamic historian is Al-Tabari. This is one of my set. There are actually 40 volumes in this set, the history of Al-Tabari. It has a little bit more detail at certain points of Muhammad's life than Ibn Ishaq. But most scholars that I have read will say that Ibn Ishaq is the premier biographer of Muhammad's life. So, the reason I want to focus on this is because so far, this young terrorist has said, and AP has reported, and the federal questioners actually seem to believe him, that he was simply not connected with any foreign government, didn't have a lot of funding. Now, this could prove to be a lie, but he's saying, look, I'm just a Muslim. So they want to say, well, who's the general? Who's the general? Who's leading you? Who's telling you what to do? And they just don't get it. It's Muhammad. It's Muhammad himself. I'm going to read to you from a passage about the decapitation of somewhere between 600 and 900 men. Now, the Quran records this event in very obtuse words. The Hadith and these biographers have enormous volumes written about it because it was one of the most glorious victories for Muhammad and Islam in his lifetime. Before I go to the break, let me read to you what the Quran says about it, and then I'll read to you what actually happened. Here's the words of the Quran. And he, God, caused those people of the book, that's a name for the Jews, he caused those people of the book who aided the Confederates to come down out of their fortresses and cast dismay into their hearts. Some ye slew, others ye took prisoners. And he gave you their land and their dwellings and their wealth for an heritage, even a land on which ye had never set foot. For the might of God is equal to all things. That's from Surah 33. Surah is the Arabic word for chapter. Some you killed, others you took prisoners. You took everything they had. When we come back from this break, I'll give you the gruesome details, and you have to understand what you're about to learn. Muhammad is the central actor in the decapitation of hundreds and hundreds of innocent men, including taking for himself a prize. Guess what the prize was? I'll tell you when we come back. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
The flame of Christian ethics is still our best guide. Only on this basis can we reconcile the rights of the individual with the demands of society. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back to the program, friend. Remember that poor soul, Nicholas Berg, who was decapitated by al-Zarqawi in cold blood? Before he cut his head off. And we are not going to show that footage today. But before he did it, he said this into the camera. The prophet, speaking of Muhammad, the master of the merciful, has ordered to cut off the heads of some of the prisoners of Badr in patience. He is our example and a good role model. That terrorist, before he murdered Nicholas Berg, said in plain Arabic, Muhammad told us what to do, and he was our example. He is referring to several incidences where people were decapitated. The one that I'm going to focus on right now is the brutal slaughter of some 600 to 900 Jewish men. Now, here's what happened. There were a group of people that were trying to overturn Muhammad's rule in Medina. Most of the Jewish community knew nothing about it. Some of these Jews were working with some Arabs, all right? So the plot came to nothing. Muhammad found out about the plot and was going to let it go. But what he said was that the angel Gabriel appeared to him and said that he was going to strike terror into the hearts of those Jews. Okay? Strike terror. Remember that phrase, terrorism. So the Jews were approached and they said, look, they surrounded their city and they said, you can fight, we could starve you out, or you could agree to come out peacefully and surrender to the judgment of an umpire, all right? And Muhammad picked a man, the Jews agreed to the person, and he said, this is my judgment, that all of the men who had reached puberty and older should be killed, all of the women and children taken as slaves, and all of the property taken by the Muslims. This is what Muhammad said in response to that judgment. You have given the judgment of Allah above the 7 heavens. Another one records it, Al-Tabari records it as, you have passed judgment on them with the judgment of God and the judgment of his messenger. Al-Tabari has it one way, Ibn Ishaq has it another. And for those of you who think, well, sometimes the Gospels record the words of Christ just a little bit differently. So this doesn't alarm me. The point is that Muhammad said, this is the judgment of God. I completely agree. You've given the judgment of me as well. And then I will read to you the account from Al-Tabari. The apostle then went out to the market of Medina, which is still its market today, and dug trenches in it. Then he sent for them and struck off their heads in those trenches as they were brought up to him in batches. Among them was the enemy of Allah, Huyai, son of Akhtab, and Ka'ab, the son of Asad, their chief. There were 600 or 700 in all, though some put the figure as high as 800 or 900. As they were being taken out in batches to the apostle, they asked Ka'ab, who was their ruler, what he thought would be done with them. He replied, will you never understand? Don't you see that the summoner never stops and those who are taken away do not return? By Allah, it is death. This went on until the apostle made an end of them. Now, please note that in this narrative, Muhammad is the central human actor of the massacre. The apostle dug trenches. The apostle sent for them and struck off their heads. The apostle brought them up in batches. The apostle made an end to them. I ask you to just use your imagination for a minute. All right, the judgment happened, and the Jewish men did not know what was happening. They were being held in some huge courtyard area, and they were being taken out in batches. And they said, what do you think is going to happen? And he said, don't you understand? By God, it is death. No video footage back then. But picture the scene. These are unarmed civilians, most of whom had no knowledge of what was even going on. And they're being brought out, told to kneel in front of a trench, and their heads are cut off. The blood, the gore, the stench would have been unthinkable. And as I told you before the last break, Muhammad took a prize for himself. It was a sex slave. Her name was Rayhana, beautiful Jewish woman. And she remained his sex slave until he died. He predeceased her, Al-Tabari records. You want to understand what the Sarnev brothers did? Do you want to get inside of the head of Muslim terrorists like al-Zakari, who cut off Nicholas Berg's head? You don't have to look any farther than the founder of their accursed religion. Muhammad is the key. I'll be right back with more. Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to facethetruthamerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. In the 1980s, banks introduced designer checks. When my buddy George Johnson inquired at the bank, they had nothing for pro-lifers. So the Johnsons created beautiful pro-life bank checks showing babies with a strong pro-life message. You can speak out for life with every check you write, whether personal or business checks. Be a voice for babies with these pro-life checks. Go to prolifecheckguy.com to see more. That's prolifecheckguy.com.
O Lord, thou God of vengeance, shine forth. Rise up, O Judge of the earth. Render to the proud their deserts. O Lord, how long shall the wicked exult?
Welcome back. I just want to say this. When it's time for me to take a break, my studio staff will go, I told them, you got to stop doing that, all right? We need a new signal. I'm just a little uncomfortable talking about decapitation while you go like this to me. I know that this is a difficult subject. We have chosen to be discreet with the images that we use. But history is history. The facts are the facts. Islamic theology and the hadith, the words spoken by Muhammad, the deeds done by Muhammad, what he approved of that happened in his sight. These things matter. And if we are going to understand Islam, we have to not be afraid of the truth. I am so thankful to have this television show and this network and these affiliates, because the simple fact of the matter is that if you flip through your dial to cable news outlets or to the major networks, they simply are not telling the American people the truth. I mean, let me ask you flat out, have you ever heard on a so-called legitimate news channel or on ABC Evening News with George Stephanopoulos or anybody, Diane Sawyer, have you ever heard them say that Muhammad struck off people's heads, that he ordered people to do so? Have you ever even heard a translation of what al-Zarqawi said before he cut off Nicholas Berg's head? He was saying it right there. The translators knew what he was saying. And they did not have the integrity and or the courage to tell us the truth. Why is that? Fear. They have actually already succumbed. Do you understand? Part of the way Islam was spread, obviously, was just flat out killing people. But if everyone is killed, then you don't have more Muslims coming in and you don't have a fresh slave labor force, so you don't want to kill everyone. The goal is to terrorize them into submitting to Islam or to being the happy second-class citizens. And If we refuse to tell the truth, if we get afraid and we won't show cartoons with Obama, or rather, Mohammed wearing a turban with a bomb in it, that might have been a Freudian slip. Anyway, then we've already succumbed at some level. Do we want to understand the threat? Do we want to understand that the fount of what the Tsarnaev brothers did is Mohammed himself? Let me, do I have time to read a quote from the mom? All right, I'll take a break early. When I come back, I will read to you some of what the mother said in an interview about her son, so that you understand what's going on. Her and his devotion to Islam. Don't go away. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back, friend. By the way, we've got 5 sets left. What would Muhammad do? By the way, that's the sword that Muhammad used to have to spread his peaceful religion. We've only got 5 left. We've gone through thousands of these. If any of you want them, it's $50 for the set. You can help fund our program. The first 5 people get them, because that's all we've got left. The Tsarnaev brothers have a mommy, and the family hit rough times. She did an interview with the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal said law enforcement officials trying to understand what happened in Boston are looking into whether Tamerlan Tsarnaev had taken a turn toward radical Islam. Quote, his mother said, "You know how Islam has changed me." That's what her son told her. And she went on to say how that she decided to wear a covering, and the husband said, "You're crazy, covering yourself." And she said to him that this is what Islamic men should want. This is what I am supposed to do. So as a family, they started to fall on tough times, and she said to them, "Look, we're Muslims. We're not behaving like Muslims. We should try and become good Muslims." So he started to read good Muslim material. He read the material that reflected the life of Muhammad. He read the material that Fox and CNN and ABC pretend doesn't exist. He read the material that inspired him to want to live forever in heaven. When Muhammad was approached and someone asked him, how can someone get to heaven? One of the things that Muhammad said is jihad, jihad, jihad in the way of God. These are the words of the founder of their religion. So what can we do? I would encourage you, buy this book. We do not sell them. Go find it online. The Life of Muhammad by Ibn Ishaq. If you want to spend $600 or $700, get the entire set of Al-Tabari.